Okay, today I'm going to talk about e-commerce algebra. So let me just give you an analogy. Imagine you have never seen cars before, you have never driven one, you have never sat in one, but you are shown a lot of spare parts. The steering wheel, the tires, the windscreen, the gearbox, the engines. You just do not get the full picture, right? Like all of those parts, they serve a purpose, but it's incredibly difficult if you do not understand cars to know what they do. E-commerce algebra is very much the same. We have lots of metrics getting thrown around every day. The return on ad spend, that is very basic. You have more like conversion rates, exit rates, bounce rates, time spent per session. It just felt a little bit too much. When I first started exploring e-commerce matrices, I would just look at definitions after definitions, right? But I would never get the full picture. So my goal today is to summarize all my experience in 30 minutes. So hopefully when you walk away from this meeting, you have a full picture. Let me introduce myself. So I'm Daryl, C21. We are an e-commerce growth agency. We do two things, traffic and conversion. We basically bring visitors to the site and think about how to convert those visitors into buyers. A few things we are covering today, e-commerce core metrics, why your customers are dropping off, how to reduce drop-offs, and finally, you summarize everything. Okay, this is what I was talking about. This is actually a simplified version. We make it into a straight line from left to right. Much easier to understand than if things were thrown around all over the place. But even this, I believe it is still a little bit complicated. So can I get a show of hands of how many of you do not quite know how all matrices come together? All right, I think this session will be very helpful. Let me just start dissecting the add to purchasing buying journey. Why I focus on add to purchasing journey is because this is the, I believe, majority of e-commerce brands use ads to drive their traffic. Okay. Let me start with the most important one, which is the core metrics. Okay. If you look at purchase and repurchase, it essentially means, let's say, getting the first purchase. People also call it acquisition. Okay. Getting people to buy again and again from you, we call it retention. Okay. That's why you always hear the buzzword lifetime value getting thrown around. Okay. I want you guys to think about this as a cause and effect relationship, where everything on the left is the cause. Okay. Everything on the right is the effect. So how well your effect finally turns out depends on how well you execute on your ad metrics and site metrics. Okay, hopefully that's very clear. Let me just emphasize again, purchase and repurchase, acquisition and retention. These two things are the most important things to work on for e-commerce brands. If you can nail both of these things, you have a very fast growing brand. Quick definition, I will not define every single metric, but these are the main ones you will need to know. Return on ad spend. I think this is the favorite word in everybody's mind. Total revenue divided by ad spend. Customer acquisition cost, sometimes we also call it CAC or CPA. Ad spend divided by number of new customers, and also conversion rate. Basically, how many people come to your site and how many of them can you convert into buyers. So sales is a very broad term. It almost seems counterproductive to think about, okay, how to increase our sales. So we need to break down things into three parts: traffic, conversion rate, and our average order value. If you times everything together, you get the sales. Okay, you can think of traffic as shopping mall rentals. So I think those of we are all from Southeast Asia. We have the shopping mall culture. Everybody goes to malls. Okay, but I want you to think about, what does the rental cost mean to a retail business? Is a business renting a space in the shopping mall because they are paying for the space, they want to store items, or are they really paying for the traffic because they know so many people are going to the malls every day? So I want you to have a mindset today, which is to equate rental costs in shopping malls to ad spend. Okay, how much you spend on ads, it actually is, it is only going to help you buy traffic. Okay, so please don't be, please don't see ads as a sales generation channel, right? See it as a traffic generation channel. The next part, which is conversion rate, I will spend a lot of time here, and here we go. Drop-offs are everywhere. So affecting conversion rates. This is something that we cannot solve, but we can try to minimize the drop-off from one step to another. So the biggest enemy of a good conversion rate is drop-off. I want you to imagine going to an offline shop. Okay, I think it is easier for us to visualize offline than online. Let's say you go to a shop, you get, maybe you arrive too early. You are locked outside the door. This is the equivalent of a site having slow loading speeds. You just cannot enter the store. So how do you expect people to buy from you? Okay, so let's say you successfully entered the store. The first step would be discovering the brand, finding the products. Maybe you are genuinely interested, you already want to buy. You go looking for your size, is it easy to find? From XS to maybe XL. You go looking for a color, is it easy to find? Or are they even in stock to begin with? All of these things will affect the conversion rates. A lot of the retail clients that we work with, when they first start to explore online, broken size is one of the biggest roadblocks. Okay, they have maybe a lot of items on the site listed, but almost everything is out of stock. It's incredibly difficult. Or they only have bad selling, the SKUs that are not very popular. They just list it online. So this is the first part. Now, going to the next, I want you to imagine you take the products to the counter. You are ready to purchase. But is there a queue? Sometimes the queue is maybe 10-minute long, 20-minute long, and you just don't have the patience or the time to go through it. This may be the equivalent of a checkout process. I think Shopify makes checkout incredibly easy. It is one of the best in the market. If you're using Shopify, you probably don't need to worry. Okay, I'll break down each step later. But let's just jump to the last part. Imagine when you're paying, what payment methods are available? In Southeast Asia, credit card and debit card adoption is actually very low. Okay, in Indonesia, for example, cash on delivery, COD, is so popular. I'm not sure if this is the case in the Philippines, but in Malaysia, credit card penetration rate is around 30%. The remaining 70% will be online banking and e-wallets. Okay, so think about, think from your customer's point of views. Think from your customer's shoes. Can you help them solve their problems? Let me proceed. Drop-offs can happen anywhere in the add to purchasing journey. So I'm showing you this again because it's so important. You can see that the red arrow signifies drop-off. So there will always be a drop-off from one step to the next. There's no way to solve it. It will always be there, but you can try to minimize it. And now we come to the topic of how to minimize drop-offs. I'll break it down into two segments, ad metrics and site metrics. Let's start with ad metrics. As I said earlier, most e-commerce brands are rely on ads for their traffic. So I will just use Meta ads as an example, but it actually is the same for Google ads, TikTok ads, everywhere is the same. So the first step of customers seeing your ad, okay, whether they decide to click and come to your website, this is the equivalent of me going to a shopping mall and I look at the shop and determine whether I want to walk inside. Okay, not everyone who goes to a mall will enter your shop. Okay, so I've actually included a benchmark click-through rate here. Please measure by outbound click-through rate. Okay, click-through rate itself is not accurate. Please measure it by outbound click-through rate. For a fast-moving vertical like fashion and beauty, typically we aim for 1 to 1.5%. Okay, and for a slower-moving category, maybe furniture or electronics, we can accept slightly lower, like 0.6 to 1%. But if you are doing anywhere less than 0.5%, this is actually quite a red flag. Okay, why this is important? Because at platforms like Meta, we actually pay for impressions. We do not pay for sales. We do not pay for clicks. We pay for impressions. And how well we do after that depends on how well we execute our creatives. Okay, unique outbound click-through rate is okay as well if you want to measure that. Yeah, but you can measure it, maybe drop it by 20%. So 1 to 1.5 could be 0.8 to 1.2. Yeah. So I will share 3 tips on how to make your creatives better. The first one would be shoot in vertical. Majority of social media users will be on their phones. If you are shooting in horizontal format, I doubt anyone will just switch the phone to the horizontal format unless they are on YouTube. If you are talking about Meta, like Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok, we have to shoot in vertical. Square is okay as well. Square is not too bad. Square is good for feed placements. Vertical is good for reels and stories placements. Okay, the second tip, shoot it within 60 seconds. The average person actually views a video for 4 seconds on social media. So if your video is 3 to 4 minutes long, it's not going to work unless your content is super good. We have seen it work before, and it is a really great content. So I would say less than 1 minute is fine, anywhere less than 1 minute. And the last tip would be shoot with subtitles if it is a video. 90% of social media users are on mute. So you need subtitles if you're speaking. Fun fact, I believe most of you will not know this. If your ad has very high engagement rate, people see, let's say Meta sees this ad, wow, this ad has such a high engagement rate, so many likes, so many comments, so many clicks. You will actually be rewarded with lower CPMs, which means to show your ad for 1,000 times with good engagement rate, it is actually cheaper than an ad that is badly crafted. So you actually get benefited both ways. Okay, so to recap, ad metric, how great your creatives are will determine your click-through rates. Second part, let's say I have clicked on your ad already. Will I be able to arrive on the landing page on time? Okay, it is actually a huge factor. I remember seeing a statistic, something like for every 0.5 second extra loading time, the bounce rate increases by certain percent. I don't know, but the point is, it's very important. Okay, so the benchmark loading speed we see across our clients is around 4 to 5 seconds. So this is Shopify loading speed. I understand that you guys may use tools like Pingdom, Google Web Speed Score, and Analyzer and stuff like that. Personally, I'm not a big fan of those tools because they benchmark all sites, one size fits all. So they don't look at e-commerce with e-commerce. They look at if you compare a site, let's say with only text, with a site like a Shopify store, where you have cart functionality and everything, it's not a fair comparison. So I would say don't compare. You can use those tools as a reference, but it's not very important to me. And the red flag for high loading speed is more than 7 seconds. This is an interface of the Google Analytics page. Another metric you can look at to see whether your loading speed is affecting your conversion rates is bounce rate. Typically, we see a healthy bounce rate at around 40 to 55%. Okay, and the red flag would be more than 60%. Yep. Next part, just because someone has come to your website does not mean that they will view products. Of course, I understand that sometimes your ads, you can link to the product page immediately. But just imagine someone came to your site directly. They search .com. Is your navigation built well enough for them to find what they want? Okay. Is your product recommendation engine built well enough, and your collection filters? Some of this I've covered in my CRO session earlier, but I'll just repeat a little bit. So for these brand machines, we have built the navigation in such a way where it's very easy to find the product they want to find. Fashion, typically we have to break down by categories, gender, men, women. If you're kids collection, feel free to do it, and some promotion categories as well. What you're running. So the benchmark, if you measure by outbound click to product view, is actually 200%. Why is it 200%? Because we want each user to view more than one product. Okay. Of course, I know that this doesn't apply to every brand. Some brands only have 5 products, and the buying behavior for each product is very different. But this is just a very, very general benchmark. If you are not at 200%, I don't think it's a big deal. But basically, the red flag is 70%, which means for every person who clicks on the ad, only 70% eventually views a product. That is a very, very low score. Okay. This is to elaborate on the previous point, viewing products. If you have a good recommendation engine, like for example, frequently bought together, we know that product A and product B, frequently bought together. We try to show the products that are relevant to them. What's new? If you have a new arrival section, make sure to feature it on the homepage. Okay, and still interested in these products. So this is a continuation. I also covered in my CRO session earlier. It basically means that if I viewed the iPhone 13 Pro and this warranty plan in my previous session, now I come back to this website on the homepage, I will get shown still interested in these products. So it's very easy for me to find what I previously viewed. The next part, just because someone views your product doesn't mean they will add to cart. Okay, this is actually arguably one of the most important sections if you are focusing on content. I'm sure there are a lot of you here who focus on content a lot. So what will affect this performance? Information presentation. So if you can see, we actually built this product page in such a way where if they scroll down, it will keep on switching. So you start from ingredients to how to use to proven results, or people can just click to jump to the section they want to read. Okay. One important information is shipping, delivery, and return policy, especially if your product is involves sizes. Okay. People are afraid they're gonna get the wrong size. So you want to highlight your return policy. Size chart is important if you are in fashion. Unique selling point is very important if your product solves a problem. So this is a skincare product. It solves a problem. Problem solution kind of products, we will focus more on the USP. Okay. So it's very important to generate the desire and address your customer concerns. So for example, skincare would be, hey, I might have sensitive skin. Will this product mess up my face? Okay. And skincare products generally need a lot of trust. It's incredibly difficult to sell skincare. That is even more reason that we want to show testimonials. So I believe this product page has 15,000 reviews, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, but it's just a social proof that people know, oh, so many people have used it already and it has good reviews. So this is probably a good product for me. And the benchmark we have from product view to add to cart is 20 to 30%. Okay, again, this is not one size fits all. It depends from industry to industry. If your product is $1,000, $500, of course it will drop significantly. So please don't compare this to yourself. But if you are in the quick moving categories, you can aim for this kind of level. A red flag would be less than 10%. Moving on from adding to cart to checkout. So this is actually a part where many brands will mess up, because if I add something to cart and there's no indication that I've added it to cart, it just looks like the website has lagged. So this is, I'm not sure if you guys have experienced such websites before. Just a bit confusing. So typically there are two ways to do it. One way is to have a pop-up asking them if they want to go to cart or they want to continue shopping. Typically, we will use this button, continue shopping, to go back to the last link. So if they came from the women's tops link, collection page link, we'll bring them back there. Okay. The second way to do this is just a slider. And of course, there are many things you can do here to increase AOV. Okay. A benchmark add to cart to checkout is actually 10 to 15%. Yep. And the red flag is less than 7%. So actually, if you realize, add to cart to checkout is one of the most difficult parts of e-com, because it's incredibly difficult to get them to progress from one event, one action to the next. And next I want to talk about is checking out to purchase. So have you guys seen this before, where I'm very interested in a product and I click checkout and I'm required to log in? This is a huge blocker. One of the red flags. You cannot be doing this. Shopify is very easy. You can just click enable get checkout. Okay. So especially for brands that are pretty new, you guys should definitely rely on the get checkout more. Okay. If you are already at the very established brand level, you have very strong loyalty, it is okay to have the login page. Yeah. Okay. And the benchmark checkout to purchase is 20 to 30%. The red flag is less than 10%. So how you can try to improve this is by having, I think free shipping is a big thing as well. Yeah, most people do not enjoy paying for shipping. Availability of payment options, as I mentioned earlier. Okay, do you accept the most common checkout option? I think someone mentioned in the chat earlier that in the Philippines, COD is also very popular. Yeah, so if you are trying to sell to the Philippines market and you don't have COD, probably this will be a huge drop-off point. All right, now I will share a few ideas on average order value. Okay, this one will be a very short one because it's very straightforward. So in this example, we have this brand, the product page, we actually try to cross-sell as many things as possible. So this is a gifting site. Okay. And we want to cross-sell relevant items. So for example, cakes, maybe it's their birthday, some alcoholic beverage, and many more add-on things. Customization is a great way to increase your AOV as well. You can see with name, it requires an additional 30 ringgit. Okay, so if you're in this kind of niche, it's worth thinking about customization. The next part will be electronics. So not sure how many of you are in the electronics scene, but warranty is a big thing to increase the AOV as well. Okay, you can sell it like 0 warranty, 12, 24, 36 months at whatever price you want to sell it at. Okay, I will move on to the next part, customer lifetime value. Data loss, I think I will address this question later. Yeah, I'll move on to customer lifetime value. So earlier in my slides, I have addressed the core metrics and explained the cause and effect relationship and how to minimize the drop-offs. Now I want to talk about retention. I am sure LTV is a buzzword for a lot of you. You know, you keep hearing LTV, LTV, LTV. But here's the kicker. I feel like LTV adds no value. Okay, because lifetime value, lifetime, you cannot wait a lifetime. Okay, why do I say this? Because every brand has a different cycle, right? Like for example, these two products. This is furniture, and on the right is skincare. The repurchase cycle is so different, 12 months for furniture, and for skincare is probably less than 6 months. Let me give you a more extreme example. Toyota, probably 10 years. Okay, for me to buy another car, right? Probably 10 years. So I think there are only two ways to succeed in terms of LTV. The first way is if you have very high average order value, it is okay to have low retention. Like for example, if you sell furniture or if you sell cars. Okay, if you are on the low AOV side, like skincare or fashion, you need high retention or your brand will not survive. Okay. Why I say this is because acquisition cost recently, not just recently actually, all the time it's been very expensive. And it's only going to get more expensive. So if you are in a quick moving industry, you got to think about how to increase your lifetime value. Okay, so remember what I said just now? You cannot be a lifetime. The solution is to actually add a timer. We typically prefer 6 months lifetime value for many brands. Okay, for a minority of brands that have very high AOV, very low retention, sometimes we stick to 12-month lifetime value instead. Let me show you an example. So this is a sample, right, where we know that, oh, on the first purchase, people usually buy, I think I need to spend a little bit of time explaining this chart. Okay. Can I get a show of hands? How many of you have seen this kind of thing before? Quite a number of you. That's great, but I think it's less than 10%. But let me explain. On the left, we have the first order date. So this is a September 2021 all the way to September 2022. On the right, we have the new customers. How many new customers have been added? Okay. And this, we have a first order value. So how much is your first order value? Which means for the customers you acquire, they are only buying from you for the first time. How much did they spend? Okay. Something we want to look at, as I said earlier, the 6 months lifetime value, right? Look at the 6 months lifetime value column. So I'll just look at the average down here. I don't want to look at individual months. So down here is the average. So on average, we have a first order value of 174 Malaysian ringgit. I'll just call it dollars, okay? $174. By the 6th month, okay, we can see that it has increased to $337. Okay, I hope this is the case for you because this is actually a very good returning rate. Yeah, we have seen brands where the first order is, let's say, $100. On the 6th month, it's $105. So it has only increased by 5% in the 6-month period. Okay, so how this will be affected, I will talk about it later. If I show you in percentage terms, you can see first order value is always going to be 100%. This is the base. By the 6 months, over here, we see 194%. So this brand is a very high retention rate. And what is the benchmark? We recommend 150% for 6 times lifetime value. If you're in the fast-moving industry, this has to be the case. Yeah. Anything lower, I think, is a bit too low. Maybe your customers are not that satisfied with your product, or maybe they do not need two of the same things. You have to think about how to develop your product strategy. Okay. The brand we saw earlier was 200%. Wow, that is great. I think the more realistic one is at 150%. This is more common. Here, I have a lifetime value / customer acquisition calculator for you. Feel free to scan the QR code to get your own copy. So we actually do not require any email address or something. It leads you straight to a public Google Sheet link. So feel free to make a copy of it and enter your details. So I think this is Peach. For Peach, you can enter your own data. So let's say 3 months ago, right? I would put maybe July, August, September. Okay, and it will give you a good idea of what has happened. All right, and on the forecast template, this will enable us to determine how much we want to spend on ads per month. That always comes the question. So how much do we spend on ads? Well, yes, the easiest way is just to allocate a percentage of your sales, can be 20, 30%. But there will always be a point where it is just not worth it anymore. Okay, like for example, if I spend 10K, I can acquire 100 customers. If I spend 20K, probably I won't be acquiring 200 customers. It will drop a little bit. This is the law of diminishing returns, right? And what we want to do as performance marketers is to push the limit. Every month, we try to increase a little bit and see if we can continue pushing the limit. Sometimes when brands get big enough, it depends on the market size as well, we see that beyond a certain point, it's just not worth it to spend anymore. Okay, so this calculator will enable you to have an idea. Yeah, but I would say this is a bit advanced because it also involves calculating a gross profit margin and stuff. So please feel free to work with your finance department to find out. And moving on, what are some ways to increase your lifetime value? We have, this is a mind map for you. I will not explain every single point, but the most important ones would be maximizing on your channels. So like email campaigns, SMS campaigns, WhatsApp campaigns. This will be a good way, to remind people that you still exist. Try to increase the average order value of subsequent purchases. If they trust you already, having bought something from your site for the first time, it is often rather easy to get them to buy something more expensive the next time or buy more. Okay, and improve customer retention. Are you doing anything to wow your customers? Okay, increase frequency of purchases. Try to, I think this one depends on the product nature as well. How often people will repurchase your product. All right, I will talk about on the left side, efficient planning of your marketing. So product launches. I have seen some brands where they don't do anything for 1 year. No new product. I think that is quite a red flag. It's a bit too stagnant. Time of the year, I think Q4 is always a peak period for majority of the world. All right, sales events. Are you having any campaigns? It doesn't have to be huge discounts, Sometimes we just want a little bit of incentive for people to buy now. Like for example, you have a free gift, something of a small value, but your customer appreciates. Okay, and breaking down by customer segment. When you spend on ads, don't just spend one budget on everyone. You should always break down into a few segments. I will cover more of some of these things in my tomorrow session, but let me continue. So what are some key takeaways? Know your numbers. Do you know all your numbers? I think you can refer to my slides again and try to see if you are in the benchmark. Product strategy design for retention. This is what I call the fundamental. So performance marketing is something that can amplify growth, but it cannot create growth from nothing. So the fundamental has to be very important, right? Your product strategy, right? I've seen brands where they do their digital side of things is terrible. So hard to navigate the website. They have no other channels. They only rely on, let's say, one channel ads. But their numbers are amazing because their products are so good that they, yes, they could be doing better, but they can still succeed because their core product is so good. Okay, and reduce drop-off rates, like what I shared earlier. This is a bonus. This is what we do for all of our clients. You can see we have a breakdown. We use a tool called Supermetrics. There are other tools like DataDo to visualize your data, right? We pull the data from different sources, from Meta, from Google, from TikTok, okay, from Google Analytics, from Shopify, and centralize it in one place. So we actually have different tabs to track the data. But this tab in particular, because I focus a lot on ads in this video, this one tracks the ad performance. Okay, how much do we spend every single day? What is the return on ad spend every single day? We can get to see the trend. Where I want to direct your attention is on the right. Did you notice this is exactly what I shared earlier? CPM, CTR. This is the ad metric. It affects your cost per click. Okay. Cost per view content, basically product view, cost per add to cart, cost per checkout, and cost per purchase. This entire journey is a site metric. Okay. We even have a percentage breaking down what is the what is the continuation from one step to the next. Okay. So if you are not doing something like this, it could be a bit difficult to spot trends. Yeah, this is something for us to spot trends. For those who are familiar with ads, you know that it's pretty difficult to see what happened tomorrow. What happened yesterday? You need to click yesterday. What happened the day before? You need to click again. So this is a good way to track. We usually do it in like a 7-day view, 14-day view, and 30-day view.